Hello, welcome to another edition of Spark the Conversation. This is your host, Mark, the Spark. Let's get into today's news. So our first story, Donald Trump signed a couple more executive orders today, a bunch more, but there's a couple that we're going to focus on. And the first is the executive order to declassify JFK, RFK, and MLK Jr., that's a lot of Ks, files. We won't go any further with that. But so Robert Kennedy and John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. So a lot of these files have been sealed up for a long time, or at least only partially released, if anything has been released at all on them. And he says we're going to set it free, and put it out into the public. And I think that's kind of indicative of his whole presidency and his campaign to date. And if he sticks with the same policy, I think a lot of people will find that they're starting to trust the government again. The implication is that if you're hiding something, you have something to hide. It's just kind of makes a lot of sense, right? If you don't have anything to hide, then you don't make things top secret. And these cases are so old that that if there's anybody living that was involved in a cover-up, they're ancient at this point. So, but why would the government have an interest in protecting people like that anyways? And that's the distrust in the government that people get when they're covering up things like this and they won't release things to the public. What are we supposed to think other than they're hiding something, right? Seems pretty logical. And that's kind of my thought as well. One side of me says, oh, this must be conspiracy theory to even think that maybe something's being hidden, the government had a part in some of these assassinations or anything like that. But the other part of me says, well, then if the government didn't have a part in it, then why would they be keeping these things classified for so long? So it's kind of a catch-22, and I don't know which side to believe, but it is, at the very least, very transparent for Trump to release these files. Here's a clip of him doing that.
And everything will be revealed. Okay? Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
So the next clip that we have here today, the news article, is he signed another executive order, and this one is pardoning some more people. And this is a group of people probably who deserve the pardon more than anybody else. So he specifically is talking about peaceful protesters at pro-life, mostly abortion clinics is where these people happen. There's this law, federal law, that a bunch of lefties created, basically saying that you can't interfere with anybody going into an abortion clinic. And while I agree that you shouldn't be able to physically interfere or even harassment, depending on how you define it, obviously that term can be defined very loosely, and so I would have to be very specific in the wording in that. But of course, leftists and progressives take this definition and they push it to the extreme and make it as loose as possible. So some of these people literally were just in a hallway praying and get years in prison. You're talking like hard time in federal prison for barely doing anything at all, or not even doing anything at all, not even what you could call harassment. So Trump is pardoning those, 23 of those, and here's that clip.
A set of pardons for peaceful pro-life protesters who were prosecuted by the Biden administration for exercising their First Amendment rights.
Do you know how many?
I believe it's 23, sir.
23 people were prosecuted. They should not have been prosecuted. Many of them are elderly people. They should not have been prosecuted. This is a great honor to sign this.
So the next thing we're getting into, not really a news per se, but it is kind of a funny, entertaining clip that's going around the internet right now. And as much as I say entertaining, it's actually kind of painful. But as Libs of TikTok says, I saw it, so now you have to. I don't make the rules. So I don't know if they're the ones. Colin Rugg was the one who seems to made the first post about this. But I'm going to share this clip with you. I'm warning you, it's safe, but scary and kind of really painful. So I get that clip here.
Black and indigenous people of color. Black and indigenous people of color. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Asian American Pacific Islander. Asian American Pacific Islander. Latino, Hispanic, Romani, and Creole. Latino, Hispanic, Romani, and Creole. We all have a place.
All right, I've had enough. Make it stop. All right, well, we're going to get back to the border now. We got a lot of news, things happening there, a lot of good things. As we covered yesterday, numbers of attempted crossings are way down. As Homan has said, he's the head of the Department of Immigration, ICE, and he is not releasing anybody. He said numbers of released, like catch and release, as they've been doing for the last 4 years, zero. Zero from Venezuela, and zero from any other country. Zero from Nicaragua, zero from Mexico, zero from Cuba, any of these countries. They're not releasing them. If they catch them, they're putting them through the process and getting them out of this country. Here's the first clip. This is happening in Boston. So this is a sanctuary city, and they've done it in Chicago as well. And the interesting part is they're saying this one community that has a lot of illegal immigrants is actually like the foot traffic on the street. They're saying is down like 50% just because people know that this is happening, that ICE is coming around looking for illegals to round up per se, although they're really going after the big criminals first, which we'll see a clip of Homan in a little bit talking about that. And they've made it pretty clear, but they're not going to hold back. I mean, if they find somebody here illegally, they're getting them out. So anyways, this is Boston, another sanctuary city, and this is a clip of them rounding them up and talking about it.
This afternoon, NBC 10 saw multiple unmarked SUVs here. 5 people, some wearing vests that said police federal agents on the back, went inside one of the apartment buildings. 2 agents waited outside, 1 person taken into custody that we saw. Whether this is connected to President Trump's effort to root out illegal immigrants, something he has promised to do, is unknown. We also saw federal agents at a building on Lexington Street, also here in East Boston. A witness there told us she saw 1 person arrested. There's roughly 11 million undocumented people around the country. President Trump has said the priority is finding and deporting those with criminal backgrounds.
So that's good news. Now, there's a New York Times article going around talking about how labeling cartels terrorists could hurt the U.S. economy. This is great. So the New York Times, in its ever-dying last gasps for air as it's about to lose the last of its subscribers, has to talk about, more. I mean, they're just going to find any way that whatever Trump's doing is bad, I suppose. So now they're saying that, the federal government, the U.S. government has now labeled Mexican cartels as terrorists. And they're going to say that this is going to hurt the U.S. economy now because, anything that they can find to go after Trump, they will in the Trump administration. You're going to see this over and again throughout these next 4 years. But they're saying isolating U.S. companies from cartel activities could be almost impossible given that criminal groups operate in sectors like agriculture and tourism, leaving some American businesses vulnerable to sanctions. I can't even wrap my head around that sentence, because at first they're saying that they're protecting the U.S. companies, but then they're saying that cartels, since they operate within American businesses, that the businesses that operate with these cartels could be sanctioned. Well, I think that actually should happen. Like, is there anybody out there who thinks that a business in America that does operates, cooperates with Mexican cartels, their gangs in Mexico, that they shouldn't be punished in some way or hurt by these actions? I mean, we need to stop the cartels from bringing fentanyl across the border, which is killing people. Oh, they want to try everything they can to stop people from dying, overdosing on drugs, and especially fentanyl, but they don't want to stop the people bringing it in and selling it, knowing that they're doing damage to people. Come on. So if a company is doing business with these cartels and gangs that's getting people killed, you know what? I'm all for it. So I don't know how it's. I doubt that we'll see a big impact like they say, because New York Times is a bunch of crazy lunatics anyways, but it's their dying gasp for some kind of popularity. And in the same vein, Ilhan Omar is one of the great congressional Democrats, part of the squad, and she is saying that there needs to be a repeal of an immigration law from 1798, which seems pretty relevant today. Roll the clip.
It is hard to imagine anything more un-American than that. The Trump administration's immigration policy is a threat to immigrants like criminals. America is too great to fall prey to Donald Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. We need to restore basic humanity to our immigration system, and that starts with repealing the Alien Enemies Act of 1798.
So if you guys can figure out what the heck she's talking about, let me know in the comments, because I'm not really sure. She can't even pronounce Trump. She says Terrump or something like that, administration. Maybe it's on purpose. I don't know. But she's talking about some act from 1798. She's got a bunch of loonies behind her, all the crazy ones from the squad who's, some of them were questioning, some of these cabinet picks that Trump had, and they had terrible questions, didn't understand the questions they were even asking. But they need him to remove this law, and they want to replace it with their Neighbors Not Enemies Act, basically opening the borders again, I guess. But it was signed in 1798. It's un-American. Basically, from the founding, is an un-American law. I have a hard time seeing it, that's for sure. So, whatever. In further news on the border, the Laken-Riley Act has passed. The Senate and the House has now gone to Trump's desk for signature. It's the first law that's going to his desk. It was a bipartisan bill, and basically saying that if you're found guilty of a serious crime, then you can be deported, arrested and deported. I mean, it seems like a easy vote. It seems pretty cut and dry. The fact that, 156 people, Democrats in the House, voted against it, and 35 Democrats in the Senate were against it, is very telling. I mean, these people want to protect violent criminals. They want to keep violent criminals in the country. And I think you should remember that when Trump fixes the border and then they come around wanting to claim that they had a hand in it, you can see that only very few Democrats voted alongside of Republicans to pass these bills to protect American people from dangerous illegal criminals coming into our country and committing violent crimes. Remember, here's a clip of Tom Homan, and he is talking about, he is a White House border czar, so he's in charge of illegal immigration in the border, and he's talking about they're going to enforce immigration law. I mean, this is just so common sense. Do we really need to break this down? When people are talking about the January 6ers being released, and I couldn't go down a breakdown of all these people from January 6th that were given pardons or having their sentences commuted, but I can guarantee you that the amount of danger they pose to the general American public and the regular American citizen is not near the amount of criminals that have come across our border that we know nothing about. We have no identification of them. We don't know where they are and what they're capable of. At least the people from January 6th, you know who all of them are. And I guarantee you the FBI is going to continue to watch the most serious of them. But we don't need to be detaining 60, 70, 80-year-old people who were just peacefully protesting in the Capitol area. Some of them didn't even enter the building. Some of them weren't even there. They just happened to be part of a group that was there, represented there, and they went to prison. So, I am more concerned with people on the border. And we won't even have to talk about the people that Biden pardoned, which we're going to do a little clip on after this. But let's look at this clip from Tom Homan.
And so what is happening as we speak is limited to those with criminal records?
That's the target of this operation. But like I said many times, in places like sanctuary cities where we can't arrest a bad person in the jail, we would like to have access to the jail to arrest a criminal alien in the safety and security of a county jail, which is safer for the community, safer for the officers, and safer for the alien. But when you release a public safety threat out of a sanctuary jail and won't give us access to him, that means we got to go to the neighborhood and find him. And we will find him. But when we find him, he may be with others. Others that don't have a criminal conviction but are in the country illegally, they will be arrested too. Because we're not going to strike, and this is the difference between the last administration and this administration. ICE is going to enforce the immigration law. There's nothing in the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, says you got to be convicted of a serious crime in order to be removed from this country. So there's going to be more collateral arrests in sanctuary cities because they forced us to go in the community and find the guy we're looking for.
Let me just make sure that I understand what you're saying, because at first you said that the first targets are those with criminal records, but you are also saying that those who are undocumented in the U.S., also who don't have criminal records, people who are working in their communities, maybe even have spouses who are American citizens, they could be swept up with ICE today as well?
What I'm telling you is when we go find our priority target, which is a criminal alien, if he's with others in the United States illegally, we're going to take enforcement action against him. We're going to enforce the immigration law.
So what he's saying is correct, that when they have to go into the city, sanctuary cities are going to be more affected by non-serious crime committers being arrested and deported with people who committed serious crimes. They will be more affected by this because instead of allowing ICE to go into the prisons and take the people they know are criminals, or holding on to them and notifying ICE that they have detained a serious criminal, they're forcing ICE to go door to door or take the names of people they know are serious criminals and hunt them down, which means they're more likely to run into people who are also non-citizens who have entered the country illegally, and they're going to run into those people incidentally. And so he said they're going to deport them too because they're actually, imagine this, think about this, they're going to enforce immigration law. Again, such common sense. I love this guy. Tom Homan is such a common sense guy. All he's doing is telling you straight up what the plan is and what they're going to do and why they need to do it. And it's simple. This is not complicated. This is not like Elon Musk engineering rocket science. This is simple. We need to get criminals out of this country who do not belong here. And when she talks about somebody who might be married to a legal citizen or who might have not committed any crime, well, he's explaining they crossed the border illegally. That's already committing a crime. And immigration law says to deport those people, and he's simply going to enforce immigration law. It's so simple common sense. It really is easy to see where we go from here and how we get there. I mean, it's just so simple. So like I said, we're going to get to this talk about pardoning that Biden did before he left office, which the left doesn't even want to talk about, mostly probably because they're so embarrassed by it. I mean, it is embarrassing for sure. But Mike Johnson is a great Speaker of the House, very conservative, and he probably wouldn't even be there if it hadn't been for the games played by people in the House. But he's a great speaker. He's figured out how to work the system. Seems clean, and it's great to see that a leader like him has taken the reins there. But he's talking about the Biden crime family and why they're being pardoned, or why they're going to be investigating this. Again, common sense. What do they need pardons for if they're not part of the Biden crime family? If they're not criminals, didn't do anything wrong? And of course, the left is going to say things like, "Oh, well, he's protecting them because they're going to be targeted, and they're going, Trump's going to go after them." It's like, well, Trump didn't even go after Hillary Clinton when he said he was going to send her to jail, and he could have put her in jail for illegally sharing classified documents and putting classified documents on unprotected servers in her house, and then bleach spitting it and hiding it to be, beyond that. It's like crime on top of crime on top of crime, and she had no authority to do that. And he could have gone after her. He didn't. And so he has a record that he doesn't go after people just because he doesn't like what they did or he doesn't agree with them. In fact, if anything, he's got the opposite. Like I said yesterday, he's got a record of once he beats you in whatever competition you're at, that he actually lets it go and wants to be friendly again. You could see that with Obama at the Carter funeral, how they were pretty chummy and buddy-buddy. Once the competition's over, he's willing to forgive and forget. Not so with the left. So we can roll that clip here. Here's Mike Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, to potentially have any type of congressional action on the pardons that President Biden issued over the last couple of days?
It was shocking. It was shocking what President Biden did on the way out, pardoning his family for more than a decade of whatever activity, any nonviolent offenses. It was breathtaking to us. I don't think that's anything like that's ever been anticipated. And by the way, go look at the tape. 4 years ago, when it was just implied that President Trump might do something similar, they were apoplectic. Joe Biden himself, Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer, roll the tape. They all said that would be crazy and unconscionable, and now they're cheering it along. To us, it is disgusting. To us, it probably proves the point, the suspicion that, they call it the Biden crime family. If they weren't the crime family, why do they need pardons, right? Look, there's a lot of attention that's going to be paid to this, and I think that is appropriate, and we will be looking at it as well.
And so we'll be looking forward to those investigations by the Ethics Committee or whatever other congressional committee is set up to investigate these. But just because there were pardons issued to these people, his family and otherwise, does not mean that there can't be investigations. In fact, most constitutional scholars believe, and legal scholars have said, they lose their Fifth Amendment right. Especially since these pardons were issued not for a specific crime, but for a whole time period. So they will not have Fifth Amendment protections. They can say, "Oh, I don't remember," which I'm sure will be one of their go-to statements. But it's going to look pretty suspicious when they're all coming in here, they're saying the same thing. And it'll be good to see. But to go to these cabinet confirmations, looks like a couple more are well on their way. A pretty good one we really haven't talked about much is this from New York. She is going for the U.S. ambassador. And here we have a clip of Elise Stefanik, who is a very strong candidate for this position. And she's being questioned by Chris Murphy, who's another Democrat senator, asking her about Elon Musk's Nazi salute, which wasn't a Nazi salute. It was just him saying, "My heart goes out to you," which he clarified in the moment. So it wasn't even like something that could have been misinterpreted. They were just looking for something, as progressives do, and the lamestream media. So here's him questioning her about that, and then also about anti-Semitism in the U.S. being increased as well, which is mostly Democrats. So it's ironic that this even gets talked about, and it's ironic that the left-stream media wants to talk about Nazism in general because it's their party that hates Israel. I mean, that's been clear. That's been clear. Here's that clip. Strong candidate.
What do you think of Elon Musk, perhaps the president's most visible advisor, doing 2 Heil Hitler salutes last night at the president's televised rally?
No, Elon Musk did not do those salutes. I was not at the rally, but I can tell you I've been at many rallies with Elon Musk, who loves to cheer when President Trump says we need to send, our U.S. space program to Mars. Elon Musk is a visionary. I'm looking forward to his work in DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and look forward to looking how we can be more efficient and effective. But that is simply not the case. And to say so is the American people are smart. They see through it. They support Elon Musk. We are proud to be the country of such successful entrepreneurs. That is one of our greatest strengths as Americans.
Let me share last night was a neo-Nazi salute.
What concerns me is these are the questions you believe are most important to ask to the UN ambassador. I have a very strong record when it comes to combating anti-Semitism. We just had a historic election where President Trump earned historic support from American voters because of his strong leadership combating anti-Semitism, which has been a scourge across the country, skyrocketing since October 7th. So I intend to bring moral clarity to this position and continue to speak out as a voice, as a beacon of light, condemning anti-Semitism at the United Nations, which is representative of President Trump's record and President Trump's promises that he made on the campaign trail.
So I think this shows that she's a good candidate for this position. She's able to stand up for what she believes. She's able to back Trump's agenda. She's able to support Israel like we should have been doing all along. And she has the right plans in mind, and she's strong. That's it. She's knowledgeable about the topic, and she's strong on it, which is great. Pete Hegseth, which we've talked about, Department of Defense, a few times. He's still struggling to get through. He's gotten through committee. He's headed to the full Senate vote, Florida Senate vote, for tomorrow, Friday. He should be going through that, which is great. A couple Republicans have come out against him already. Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. They're two very, I don't even want to call them middle of the road. They're rhino Republicans. They're in blue or purple areas of the country and of their state. So, it's not really surprising coming from these two. And also, Mitch McConnell was another one, but, he's probably still in the middle of a speech or something like that he froze up talking. But regardless, these people got to go eventually. I hope they get voted out at some point and replaced by a real Republican. Whether the incentive is there from their voting base, that's to be seen. But anyways, a new allegation came out against Hegseth, and this is part of the reason these people are voting against him. It's a kind of an erroneous claim from his ex-sister-in-law, which at first was seen to be like his ex-wife's sister, but it was actually his brother's ex-wife. And she made a claim that his ex-wife was abused by him. Now, the major hiccup with that is that his ex-wife has made a statement. She signed an affidavit saying that didn't happen and that she wasn't going to be making any further statements about it. It's not true, and she did not have anybody representing her. She didn't want to be represented by anybody else. Any claims anybody else made were not true and not supported by her, but that's all that she was going to say about it. So it's clear that these violations didn't happen, like most of the other anonymous claims against him, and he should have enough votes. He could even afford to lose one more Republican vote in Senate but it looks like he's got enough. If he lost one more Senate vote, it would come to a tie, and then J.D. Vance would come in and be the tiebreaker, like Kamala Harris did so many times in the last 4 years. So, seems like he's going to go through. It's a great pick. It's more of this non-establishment coming in who actually know what they're talking about and are transparent, which is the key. They're transparent. They're going to be running things well and helping to make the military great again, which is awesome. Here's a clip from Lisa Murkowski. This is from, I think, 2018, talking about Brett Kavanaugh. It's kind of talking about his temperament, demeanor. Again, these were unsubstantiated claims against him, just like they are against Pete Hegseth. So she's clearly very easily subjected to the whims of the leftist media and leftist politicians pushing a narrative. And, basically the Me Too movement lives within her, right? Like she's allowing the winds of rumors to push her opinion around. Here's that clip.
What they have demonstrated through their record, but also matters of temperament and just demeanor, which are very, very important. I have a very high bar for any nominee to the Supreme Court of the United States in my conscience, because that's how I have to vote. The end of the day is with my conscience. I could not conclude that he is the right person for the court at this time. A nomination for a judge goes forward. You rate them not only on their professional competence, what they have demonstrated through their record, but also matters of temperament and just demeanor, which are very, very important.
So another rhino Republican who doesn't want to, stand up for what's right and true, but, take the soft stance on whatever rumors going around. So in New York, People's Republic of New York, which is where I'm from, New York State is now going to try to ban cell phones in schools. Governor Hochul, again, in this nanny state, feels like she has to be the parent of kids because parents can't handle being parents. So they're going to try to ban this electronics from bell to bell, which, yeah, I get it. I don't like kids having cell phones. I don't think that I think they are a distraction in schools, I should say. I don't necessarily think that they're completely useless for schools, but my main opinion is that parents can be parents. Parents can make decisions for their kids. I think when they talk about parents wanting these, schools to have the authority to, get rid of their kids' phones is because the parents don't want to be the bad guy and take their phones away from their kids or put some kind of limiting software on it. They want the state to do it. So it's actually enabling parents to be bad parents and not, take ownership of enforcing rules on their children. And it's more nanny state stuff from New York. Not a surprise. Here's a clip from ABC talking about that.
You guys, as you know, strong feelings about this one. New York Governor Kathy Hochul earmarked $13.5 million to get this plan off the ground. She says eliminating devices from bell to bell will help students concentrate on academics by limiting access to phones during class, lunch, and in the hallways. Hochul says kids can finally be free from the endless disruptions from social media and all the mental pressures that come with it. Each school district can determine how to implement this new policy. Some here in New York have already had similar ones in place. We've seen cell phone bans in states like California, Ohio, and Florida. So far, experts say it's still too early to know definitively how effective these bans are. Some studies suggest improvements in students' mental health and academic performance, and of course, maybe even a reduction in bullying. Others show little to no change. But one thing is certain, there is rising concern on the state and federal level, and of course among so many parents, about the impact of social media and the exposure to the internet for these kids with these these devices. One study suggesting most parents agree that cell phones should be banned during class, but many don't want to see a ban for the entire school day. They want to be able to contact their kids in case of emergency.
Well, if they're at lunch or something like that, I think that some of the parents are saying.
Yes, exactly.
I miss the days before cell phones. Just saying, it was pretty good, Ariel.
All right, we're going to run through our last few articles now. One was talking about inauguration numbers being down. There was a CNN clip, but I couldn't find it, that was going around saying, that the viewership is lowest that it's been since 2013. And, Trump's going to say streaming numbers are up, and that's why the numbers are. Well, you could look at general cable TV and lamestream media numbers and see that it's down. I mean, it is down because people have alternatives. So now you're going to use these ratings, which are just looking at, cable TV, and say that it's declining, but there's no real good way to measure streaming. I know the Daily Wire was talking about streaming, and that's where I watched it. And I know a lot of other people watched their, the inauguration via streaming. And you could tell that these things are loaded. The Daily Wire reported that it's the highest thing they've ever streamed so far. So, and they've got lots of subscribers, and I'm sure I think they were airing to non-subscribers as well. So, people have a lot of options with these kind of shows now, and it would be no surprise to see that the numbers would be down from cable TV, mainly because people are cutting the cable, but also because people have options to watch these things from more than just sitting on the couch and being glued to the TV. So it's great to see. The other news is Trump is getting rid of DEI. Thank God. Literally, I don't say that to take the Lord's name in vain. I'm actually thankful to our Lord Jesus Christ, because these racist and sexist laws and rules in our federal government, and it's everywhere. It's throughout. It's in industry. It's in state government, local government. Luckily, consumers have really shown that they do not like this. So companies are starting to back off. This Robbie Starbuck is out there exposing companies for having these leftist policies, racist, sexist policies ingrained in their business practice and in their rules for their employees. And so they're starting to back off because they're losing money on it. But Trump has ordered all agencies to get rid of this DEI. Anybody in a DEI role in the federal government has been placed on paid leave, and they're basically going to eventually get fired if they can fire them. If not, they'll relocate them to some other non-essential work so that they can have no more influence on the operation of the federal government. So it's good. This is one of the mandates that Trump had being elected this year, and so he's already starting to work on that, which is amazing. He's getting to work right away. We got one more little news clip, and then we got a funny clip to watch. Donald Trump has announced the launch of STARGATE. So he's investing in AI infrastructure, creating 100,000 jobs. And granted, I'm not always a fan of throwing money to create jobs because it's usually a loss. But in the realm of AI, as much, I don't know if I'm afraid of it. I think it is overhyped. Personally, in my opinion, some people say it's not overhyped. I think it is. I think that it's overhyped in the way that I don't think it's going to take over the world, because I don't think it's capable of it. It's dependent on input of information that humans create in order to spit out any kind of action. And they've shown that over time, if humans don't give any unique input into it, it kind of devolves into this echo chamber, basically, like Blue Sky, the leftist X version of X now. It's this endless echo chamber of ideas, and it gets kind of confused as it goes through this stuff over and over again and whitewashes it and filters it out. But given mass quantities of data, it is capable of sorting and analyzing data in fashions that humans are not capable of. So in that fashion, it does have the potential to be monumental and useful in that way. But anyways, here's a clip of Donald Trump announcing the plans for that.
Leading technology giants are announcing the formation of STARGATE. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it. in the future, a new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
So it's good. That's good in the right that it's going to help America catch up from being behind other countries who have invested in AI heavily, like China especially. But I'm sure India is doing the same thing, and at the expense taking electricity and resources from their people. But they have no problem doing that kind of stuff in those countries where they're communist dictatorships. So it's good that we will be catching up because America needs to lead the world in every single way. It's proven time and again that when America leads the charge, things end up leading towards good, whereas when other countries lead the charge in any kind of fashion, in technology and advancement, they end up using it for evil or to push their own gain, and not equally or fairly to their people, or at least giving their people a chance like they have in America, but towards government and the rich class. And they don't have class movement like the U.S. And that's the key when we talk about the rich in America, how it's different than the rich in other countries, is that America has the monumental ability for people to change classes. I mean, you see it time and again. The success stories of people like Elon Musk, Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, all these people came from very low places, basically with nothing, and they've made very big, good success stories of themselves. And same with the rich people. There's many, many stories, very rich and successful people crashing and falling down into the lower class because they weren't able to keep moving and growing and building their own empires and personal growth. Anyways, this last one's kind of a fun one. Sad but funny, I guess, especially if you live in Philadelphia, because the mayor, Cheryl Parker, I don't know if she went to a very poor public school or what, but just because you're in a position of power doesn't mean that you should be there. And maybe spelling is in public is not her strong suit. Enjoy this one.
Let me hear you all say E-L-G-L-E-S, Eagles! Let's go Birds!
Wow. So I hope you enjoyed that clip. That was pretty great. How'd she spell that again? E-L-G-S-E-S. Elgis. Never heard of that team. Anyways, embarrassing. And if you look at, I think maybe that's the police chief behind her. He kind of makes a face as everybody behind her is spelling it properly. She is completely confident in spelling it the wrong way. I think it was said, somebody said it, I can't remember who says this, but they say that the world is built for those not self-aware enough to know, or those who are not self-aware, I guess, right? So you can basically saying that you can be completely confident in not knowing anything and, going through this kind of like world nonchalantly and oblivious to the fact that you're the one in the room that everybody's watching. Like they always say, if you ever go into a room and you don't know that notice anybody else is weird or standing out, or that you're looking at somebody else, then probably you're the weird one and everybody's looking at you. So, but again, that requires some self-awareness to notice that, and clearly Cheryl Parker does not have that. All right, well, that's all the news for today. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate anybody who watched and listened. Make sure you check out YouTube. I got YouTube going. I'm thinking of getting on Rumble here soon and Spotify. And make sure you send a like and a comment and follow. Appreciate it. And don't forget to go out and volunteer for something meaningful and spark the conversation.